Hello, beautiful gamers, developers, indie game lovers, and all of you out there. This is Open Indie. Here we chat with many talented people who bring the most fascinating indie games to life. Today we dive into a detective-like puzzle game called Desktop Explorer. In this game, you find your uncle's old PC, you boot it up, and discover that the OS is from the 90s. But this computer is packed with secrets, and it contains lots of cryptic files from the past. And that piques your interest. My dear husband Eve sat down with Juan, the game's writer and narrative lead, and Tucky, the 3D artist from the indie dev studio Recurring Dream. They talk about the gameplay, how this project came to life, and about some childhood memories of always leaving fun puzzles on the family home computer. So grab some coffee or some tea, make sure your dial-up connection is stable, and let's go exploring.
I'm here today with the indie dev studio Recurring Dream. I have the pleasure of two people who work there joining us today. So can you introduce yourself to our guests?
Well, my name is Juan Pablo. I go by Pirijuamps. I'm the narrative lead on our team. I'm the writer for the game, Desktop Explorer, and really happy to be here. Thank you.
My name is Pablo. So my friends call me Tucky. I am the 3D generalist / technical artist at Recurring Dream. I'm also very happy to be here.
I'm really happy to have you here. Without spoiling too much, Desktop Explorer is one of the games I'm most looking forward to playing the full version. Talking about Desktop Explorer, how do you feel about the game in its current state?
Well, right now we're really happy. We have been working a lot on, since of course we're not gonna go like full spoiler mode because it's a narrative game, but in its current state we've been working a lot since it's a really faithful simulation of what a computer could look like from like the 90s, like a 95 operating system. We've been doing a lot of work, like technical work, to make it feel like as real as possible. And right now we are mostly working on content. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tuki. And
Yeah.
we have we have the clearest roadmap we've had in since the beginning for what's next. So we're really comfortable on our projected release date, and really inspired to build the game with content.
Since you already mentioned release date, do you have something you can announce?
Thank you for asking, and I'm a little bit embarrassed because I had the opportunity to hear your thoughts on a possible release date before on the on your episode, and right now we have projected, like, as from this recording, like approximately a year. So we're looking at first quarter of 2026. So I'm sorry, not 2025.
As I also mentioned in the episode, take your time.
Thank you so much.
It's the most important thing to have it in a state that you guys like it. I'm willing to wait. And it's even better because then I'll have something to talk about in my next favorites video podcast.
Thank you.
I just joined the team back in November of last year when they told me that they wanted to introduce some 3D elements to the game. So the past couple of months have been like a lot of experimenting with what works and what doesn't. And honestly, it's been really fun to just throw ideas at the wall and like try everything with lots of freedom.
I really like the announcement that you made for the 3D elements, because before I started podcasting for indie games, I worked in software development for 10 years. And I had to create a lot of these tutorials that you guys used as an announcement trailer for the 3D. So now click here and now do this. And it's a really sweet way to introduce this new feature.
I'm glad you like it. It was pretty funny.
You are currently trying out different things and just seeing what sticks, basically. Since you started, what was the one thing that you would say worked out well in 3D?
Since the game is obviously very retro inspired, from the very beginning, Rodolfo, the founder, told me that they were looking at some really old school, like late 90s 3D games for the graphics inspiration. And it so happened that I was working on some personal projects, just learning how to do those things. So it was like almost a perfect match. A lot of the experimentation just comes from like, how do we want it to stand out, and where do we want it to be clear that there is an inspiration behind it. I think some of my favorite conversations that we have is like, oh, what themes can we put in here? And like talking about so many different kinds of games that you wouldn't even imagine have any relation to Desktop Explorer.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about it. You see bits and pieces there that tickle this nostalgia bug that you have in the brain. I think you guys also started somewhere with Windows 95, 98, XP or something like this.
Yeah.
And all of the media and all of the first games that ran with 5 FPS or whatever, but it was still perfect for us back then. And I really like how you capture this feeling. Would you be so kind to describe a typical round of your game? So what do players see, what do they hear, and what mood are you aiming to create when we play Desktop Explorer?
Yes, of course. So Desktop Explorer, which is the name of our game, but also the name of this fictional game within the game. Desktop Explorer goes around puzzles, and they're all solved within this simulation of a 90s OS operating system, which is really inspired on Windows 95 and those kinds of operating systems. But like the typical game loop is, there are bits of a story that are interconnects 3 past users, and the more you solve these puzzles, which make you use outdated software, abandoned chat rooms, or even like really retro simple games within the computer, the more you solve these puzzles, the more you find about what really happened. You start to unsolve the mystery, and you get the pieces you needed, like a detective, to keep progressing and solve the whole deal, right? And what I mean by using the operating system's features, maybe a puzzle solving tool is like interacting with a file, like renaming a file, or maybe interacting with like our own version of Paint, which is called Sketchy. And there are like all of these tools that we've made that are inspired on real experiences of us, but gamifying them and turning them into puzzles.
So speaking of puzzles and turning game features or operating systems into solvable puzzles, how did you come up with the idea for the game?
So the idea of the game comes like from really a long time ago. My brother and I, my brother, co-founder of the studio, Rodolfo, well, since we were really young, we like to leave puzzles for each other on the computer. So for example, we made a folder within a folder within a folder within a folder, where you had to do some sort of thing, like find a password within the house. You had to find something like really ARG elements before we even know what an ARG is. But we really like to challenge each other with puzzles. And when my brother and I were unemployed, like some years before, my brother like took that idea and said like, oh, I should really make a game like around that. And he started to do that alone. And then all of us, which have worked on games like really small game jams, saw the idea and said, we have to work with you on this. And for me, it was really personal because I shared that with him when we were really young. But that's how the idea originated. And we're all puzzle lovers, so yeah.
And it really shows in the creative way of the puzzles that you're making. You also put out a demo that I want to plug in every occasion that I get. The demo itself already showed such a high degree of creativity. When I solved the puzzle, it really made me feel kind of smart because I said, cool, I solved that one. Regarding your upcoming game, what's one of the features that you are most proud of?
Personally, since I'm the 3D guy, I'm really proud of what at least what we can say now that we're working on the 3D chat room. I'm really proud of how we developed that idea together, because it came almost out of nowhere. We had all these gameplay ideas already that we just couldn't find a place for. And once we went to like, oh, it should be like an abandoned online game or something, like everything just started coming together. And the fact that it's like a 3D environment and you're also like interacting with the file system, it reminds me at least a lot of like modern games, which was like something I really liked doing when I was younger. And I really think people are gonna like it.
I think so too. I'm really looking forward to the 3D elements because that was something that we didn't see up until now in the demo.
Well, it's funny because you also mentioned on the episode when you talked about Desktop Explorer, you mentioned the Chronolog software, which I'm really proud to say it's my idea. But and even when I made the name Chronolog, I felt like such a genius. I was like, oh, that's a really catchy name. Hopefully people will find it clever. But it's something I'm really proud of, but like my biggest grudge as a storyteller, because even though it's a tool for users, I mean these fictional users, to share their thoughts because it's their journal, it's not realistic that someone will say everything in their journal. And one of our like core values of the game is for you to learn about these past users and understand their thoughts, not only by what they wrote, but by what they experienced. So there's the environmental storytelling part and also the chronolog. And the chronolog is the easiest way for you to understand things because it's very explicit, but don't expect to find everything there, because there are really important things that you will understand, like in the context, in their abandoned files, that you will have to connect the dots and say, oh, this is what the person was referring to by saying they were sad, for example.
The chronolog always felt like something you earned after solving a puzzle, because you get a bits and pieces of the background story of the game. And for our listeners who have not yet played, Chronolog is basically like a text file that slowly scrolls the text in, and music, emotional music, which is, by the way, also really, really fitting for the game, kicks in, and it creates a real great mood. It's like kind of a, without going into too much spoiler, it's kind of this chronology of the previous users' memories and thoughts, and they are basically shared through this chronolog after a while.
Shout out to our composer, Q-Tip.
Absolutely.
Shout out to our composer, he's so great. And just like a small comment, Tucky says he joined the team really recently, and we're a really small team, and everything we do I share with my mom. And just recently my mom said like, oh my god, Tucky injected so much into the project in such a short time. He has like really evolved it. And that's the same feeling we had when the composer came into play, because we are all programmers, and we try to do all of our work in our artistic talent. For the listeners, I'm doing
Air quotes.
air quotes.
Yeah.
I'm doing air quotes on our talents because I try to not toot my own horn too much, right? But I really like writing. But our composer, when he came into play, he completely leveled up the experience, because we only used like atmospheric sound and Foley. But when he implemented all of these atmospheric elements, oh my goodness, the game feels so much better, and we hope people enjoy it.
You guys released the demo back in July 2023, if my research is correct, on itch.io in version 0.12. And since then, it also found its way to Steam, where I first encountered Desktop Explorer. And now you are in version 0.15.2. On Steam, at least. I know you are further ahead, but This makes me think that you already got some good player feedback from showing your game to the public. Can you go a little bit into more detail about this? What kind of player feedback did you get?
Yes, of course. I mean, we had the opportunity to showcase the game live, like 2 times most of the team, and 3 times in other occasions. But for example, one of them was like we had the opportunity to participate in PAX Rising, and we made like a demo just for that. And we tried to showcase most of our most ambitious ideas for that time there. And people really enjoyed it. People really liked the newly added aspects about, for example, ARG sort of elements that people had to, for example, make. they A lot of players took like a sticky note and they wrote like their ideas, and we thought like, oh, that's beautiful. But we had 2 computers. On the other computer, we saw someone making the same notes, but they did it inside the computer. They opened a note page and they saved it, and we were like, oh, that's so beautiful, because they are really immersed, and they are really treating it like they are being the detective right now in the computer. So that was beautiful, and we've had a lot of feedback. So if you only play the first part of the game, you don't have the opportunity to see how the file system evolves into using all of these environments. So we are expecting, like, we're really happy or really excited to see how players will now see this change, because, oh, I'm using the file system and I'm changing the files it's contained there, and see how the Storyteller Plus and the story beats all relate to. But now with the added area of I'm interacting with this 3D environment, and then this changes things in the file system, and I have to go check each other how they interact dynamically. That's one of my biggest expectations on how players will find that to their benefit and use them in creative ways. That's something I'm really excited about.
Yeah, we really are hoping that every chapter feels different while still feeling like Desktop Explorer. I feel like when people get to try the second chapter, it's just gonna feel like a completely different game while still using the same tools, the same programs, but with an added layer of gameplay.
Yeah, I think, Tucky, you will when you go into the third dimension, I was automatically thinking of games like Second Life or something like this, which was something like these chat rooms that you had where people interacted. And there's this one YouTuber, I don't know his name unfortunately right now, but he explores dead games in 2024 and 2025, and it's always amazing to see what people build inside of these games, games that are long forgotten or not played by more than a handful of people, but it still creates this this kind of retro nostalgia mood inside me, because we were also playing these games when we first had a computer.
Yeah, it seems like you got it perfectly.
Cool. Yes, gold star for me. We already talked a little bit about what's coming in Desktop Explorer, since the launch is set for next year, roughly first quarter 2026. When you release the game, will it be a full release, or do you plan to go into early access or something like this, or will it be a contained story?
We do want it to be a full game when it releases. Of course, there's always space to think about things we could add in the future. Like, we're building so many things that could easily be reused for a later DLC or whatever, but there's no plans for, at least that we can discuss right now.
Okay, understood. So Desktop Explorer XP edition.
That's beautiful. Thank you for saying that.
Perfect. Yeah, cool. Okay, I get it. During development, did you encounter a bug that you liked so much that you turned it into a feature?
When when I saw that question, that first thing I thought was like, no, there's no way a bug is cool, because we've struggled a lot with, I don't know, Unity shenanigans. The game is made in Unity, but you caught us, because it is we have one. And since we have like this whole interface of like windows you can interact with, there's an occasion that the other co-founder, Jose Carlos, he who's also like the main programmer along with my brother, they were moving windows across the desktop, and for some reason one of the windows always wanted to be behind another one, and when you moved like the one that was on top, you moved like from left to right, like a second later the window behind like catched up and snapped on the back of the window, so it looked like the window wanted to be hidden, and it had some information we wanted, so it didn't let us read it, and it felt like the game we're developing is turning against us and saying, no, you're not gonna see this. And we thought that's such a cool interaction, because one of our also like core values is finding eeriness and creepiness when there's a space you feel in complete control, and for some reason we slowly take it away from you. That's really creepy. It's like really creepy pasta feeling from old games, and that's a perfect example. And that turned out to be something you might see in the future. And yeah, that's an example.
Nice example. And Tuki, do you have one from the 3D realm?
So far, I haven't really encountered any bugs. I mean, of course, there were some bugs, but I guess none that were noteworthy enough like that to be turned into a feature.
Okay, yeah, understood. Now that we've talked a little bit about your upcoming game, Desktop Explorer, let's talk a little bit about you guys as game developers. How did you get started in game dev?
I started making games when I was younger. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I started messing around in Game Maker. I don't know if you know this program for making 2D games.
I do. Most of the games I love were made in Game Maker. Hotline Miami, Keep Driving, just a couple.
Yeah. And once I went into college, I studied digital design and engineering. I learned some basic coding, and this was like a level up. I was like, okay, now I can actually do something with this program. And I used to develop a lot of like really small games when I was in college, but I never really professionally dedicated to it. I was a graphic designer for a while, and I'm now currently like my day job is I'm working animation or TV, and this is where I learned to like program shaders and work in 3D. So my first professional experience as a game dev is right here in the Recurring Dream.
I started making games like when I started university, when I started studying as a programmer, because I wanted to use my skills for something fun. The first game I made was a solo project, a VR game called Fishing Paradise. It's on like itch.io. It's really broken, but it's funny because it was for a VR jam that was like you have to make everything like in a small island. I don't remember the topic right, but my idea was a game. I really like fishing, so a game where you were stuck in an island and you kept fishing the same fish, and you talk to him. And it's funny because when I started to make it, I was like focused on the mechanic, but then I got lost and tried to make a good story. And well, I made it. It's really broken, and I thought, oh, it sucks. But like 2 days after I released the game on the Game Jam, someone I really admire from that game that made a really good game left a comment and said, apparently it didn't break for him, which is a miracle. And he said, like, I don't understand how you took like this simple concept and told a good story with it. And I went with my mom and I cried. So that's the moment I said, okay, maybe this is like a talent I should pursue. And after that, I tried working as a programmer, and it's really soul draining. I don't know if you can relate. It was hard. And I really tried to focus on the creative aspect, and I started working with my brother and my friends. And now professionally, working with Recurring Dream. It's funny because dream isn't the name, but it's really a dream come true. So yeah.
Also beautiful story. Thank you for sharing, both of you. Is there a moment in your journey as indie game developers that you will always remember?
When we were in PAX Rising, we made this this ARG that was outside the game you played in the stand. We secretly made like a web page that if you on your free time with the clues you found on the demo, like enter that web page, you could like go on this rabbit hole. And we made it thinking no one is going to find this, and if someone finds it, it's not gonna solve it because it's really hard, and we were like really proud of it. And the first day, in the first hour, a guy comes in and says like, oh, I found this clue. And we give him a hint like, oh, you can go to this webpage and start doing this. And he went off running. He went off running from the stand, and he came back 3 hours later and said, I solved everything. And we were like, we thought like we were gonna spend like days. And he said, no, I went with my friend, and we literally took like 3 hours and solved it. Like we were really focused on it. And we made like a badge of honor, like a really like a folder that said like puzzle expert, and we printed like 15, and we're like, no one's gonna get it. And that was the first one we delivered, and we took a photo with him, and we're like, oh my god, you're like Sherlock Holmes, you're like so cool. And he came back like 2 days later because PAX West was like 4 days. And he came back, and we were like, oh, we should go for drinks because you're so smart. We were like really happy with him. And I will take that moment to my grave, because not only were we lucky enough to find like a kindred spirit that really liked puzzles, but also he told us like that he had a lot of fun. So we don't, if you get stuck in a puzzle, the worst thing you can think is, oh, I'm dumb, I don't understand it. No, that's a burden we have to carry as designers, because we didn't make our job well. You should never feel dumb. You should always have fun. And I mean, we all think differently. And this guy completely had fun. And that's the most important thing. And I'll take that to my grave.
A beautiful story.
For me, well, as I mentioned earlier, I work in animation, but it's an industry on its own, right? And it's not like I don't work in like for independent projects or anything like that. I work for big clients, and so creativity is very limited, I feel. And as you may or may not know, like the animation industry right now is not in a very good spot. There's like lots of layoffs. There's a lot of projects getting canceled. And for the past couple of years, I was always thinking like, man, I really want to like just find a small team that will have me as an artist and make my own thing, have some authorship of what I do, and like really be excited, like truly about what I'm creating. Maybe it was fate, but Rodolfo called me. I had known him for about 10 years already, but we hadn't been talking much. But he messaged me and we caught up. We talked about life, and he told me about a recurring dream and the project that we're working on. And I feel like he was a little hesitant to ask me if I wanted to join, because he thought like, oh, he's doing like so good, like in animation and stuff. And once he pitched me the project, I was like, I don't think I've been so sure of something in my career. I say yes. And he told me like, man, it seems like things just stack together, you know, they just pile together in the correct order for some reason. Like it's meant to be, you know. And every day we're developing this game, I kind of feel that. I feel that things just are happening in a certain way that it feels like they're meant to be.
Beautiful. What, from your perspective, is the best part of developing your own game?
For me, it's, like I said, like having that authorship of like looking at something on the screen and be like, yeah, that was all me. Like Juan talked a little bit about it, how like, yeah, the Chronolog, that's me. I can say the 3D chat room, that's me, like all those characters I designed. It's really beautiful to have that, having the ability to materialize them into something that you can share with everyone. And it's very personal, you know?
Absolutely. And also for me, as a future player of your game, I will think of our discussion today when I play and see the 3D chat room, and I'll know that you are the guy who made it. That's a beautiful thought. No, to have.
I think the best part of working on your own game, I don't know if this is like a cliche answer or a lot of people say the same thing, but when we first started to develop the idea, the first thing, since Rodolfo is the one that recovered the idea from our memories and started to make it. He's the first person who started. When we all came like one by one to work on it, the thing he always said was, don't treat this as my idea. It's now all of our project. And that mentality is, I'm gonna make the game that I would love to play. That if I saw it, I would buy it instantly. It's the game I really want to see. So if that's my mentality, the best part of doing this game is that I'm making the game I would love to play. And when people say that they really like the idea and the game, that instantly means, by logic, that we are kindred spirits. So that's like a bonus. I end up finding people like me, and that's beautiful.
That's, I think, one of the core things of games, that you connect with people because it's someone's idea and so much labor goes into it. And when I, as a player, get to experience it, especially these narrative-driven games, you kind of go into the headspace of the developers and think, okay, what was this idea? And they maybe had the same childhood experiences, in your case with technology, and they encapsulated it so nicely, like a nice little package of the past that you like to unwrap and then to relive. Now that you shared the best part of developing games, you also have to have your part of the bad things. And what would you say is the worst part of developing your own game?
I'm glad to be able to say and to admit, it's great, obviously, working on your own game, but there are many things that are difficult and that make you struggle. I would say that the worst part is when I worked like a desk job for a company I don't care, and I give money to a boss I don't care about. If I fail, I don't really care. I mean, I think, oh, I failed, no worries. Maybe it has an impact on my pay or whatever, but life goes on. But when I fail on a project I really believe in, and my colleagues are the people I trust, and I see them being really talented, the imposter syndrome and the guilt of not being able to do something is like 10 times, 20 times as hard. And it's, I think, a really important ability that we should all work on. That is, even if it's your dream game, even if it's your dream project, it's still a project. It's still a work you have to do. And that means you should treat it as a job. It does not define you. And it's a struggle to work with my self-esteem. And yeah, I would say that's the hardest part.
Adding to that, I guess we talked about having like you said, like you work for someone else. You don't have this connection to the success or the failure of the project, but it does really feel like when it's your own project, yes, every success is your success, but every failure is also your failure. It's something I don't really like thinking too much about. I would like to think that we're doing things right and that we intend at least to do the best that we can with the project. But yeah, I guess that's, as Juan said, or similar to what he said, I guess the worst part is that you don't really have like that safety net of, this is someone else's investment, this is someone else's time, this is our project.
As long as you give it your best, that's something that you can be proud of. If you could send a message back in time when you started developing games, what would it be?
For me, it will be, look for others like you as soon as you can. Because it really is, like, I know there's a lot of really good solo developers out there, but for the rest of us mortals, like, you really need a good team.
I think that the thing I would say to myself is, no, you shouldn't have started sooner, because that's something that from the first moment I started, I thought, I should have done this sooner. So maybe I should reaffirm to myself, no, you shouldn't have started sooner, but remain constant, because this is a thing you love to do. So don't stop. That's what I would say.
Perfect. I'm also very glad that you did not say lottery numbers.
Yeah, buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. Now it's too late. Sorry. Is there any other advice you would give to fellow indie devs, especially for people who are just starting out in game dev? Is there something valuable you can say to them, or some advice you would give to someone who comes to you and says, hey, I'm starting to develop my own game?
The thing I would say is that there's the biggest temptation for all of us making games is to work alone. I don't know if it's because we share introverted things. I don't know. I don't consider myself an introvert or extrovert. I don't even really like the terms, but there's a temptation because if it's your project, you want to have control, and that's the temptation. So my advice is get rid of that temptation, because not only will you get the help you need, but I believe it's a universal truth, and if you don't believe me, well, okay. But the universal truth is every project will be better if there are more minds on it, because things bloom when you open yourself to new ideas. It's a universal truth. So go, as Tucky said, look for others like you. They are there, and it will be hard, but the end result will always be better.
And I believe you.
Let's go.
It's a great opportunity for growth as well. So even if you are more like, I like to work alone, to put yourself out there, even to be able to explain your idea to someone else and to really think about it makes something with your brain as well, because then you start thinking about the idea differently. And especially when you work in a team, those ideas can evolve into something you maybe not have thought about.
Yeah, something I will add to that is to, and of course to what you said as well, is if you have ideas, like prototype them, make something, like get them out there, and keeping them in your head doesn't really do a lot. It's not until you start externalizing them, either by making them or telling them to other people, you start to realize like where they could go better or if they work or not. I think that is very important.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with that. Now that we've talked about you guys as developers, our last section is to talk a little bit about your studio, Recurring Dream. We already talked about some colleagues who are involved in making the game. How many people work at Recurring Dream at the moment?
It's 7. It's our 2 co-founders, our 3D generalist and our 2D artist, our composer, Montserrat, our PR goat, and well, me, the writer. It's 7.
Can we go a little bit into where do you guys get support from? Do you have a community that supports you? Do you get some kind of funding for your game, or do you just burn through your earned money making the game?
As of community, we have our own Discord, and we've been working hard to making it grow. None of us are Discord experts. It's really hard. So if someone out there says, oh, social media is easy, no, it is not. And as of funding and that sort of thing, it's been a struggle. We've all worked like in this project. A lot of people say like the hardest time for like looking for publishers and that sort of thing. And I don't know if that's true, but it's been a struggle.
Are you actively looking for publishers at the moment?
The thing we can say is that we cannot say much as of right now. So yeah.
Okay, understood. There's something in the works regarding funding or publisher, but you can't go into it, which is absolutely fine since you're still in negotiations.
We'll remain silent.
I will not drill too much into it because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys.
Yeah, and of course we also have our like closer circle, each of us. Like Juanpi mentioned, he shares a lot of the game with his mom. I share a lot of this game with my girlfriend. Like, I think that support is also like very, very helpful. It's the people, family and friends around us.
And it really shows for me as an outsider who is only playing the game, it still has so much heart in it. So it really shows that you guys care about it. I was so sure that you're also having a close support network where you can share the game and evolve it, because the story itself is also very emotional, and that would not be possible if it was just treated as a product.
Thank you so much for this.
Where are you guys located exactly? Or where's your studio?
All over the place.
I live in Vancouver in Canada.
Okay.
Juanpi lives in Tijuana. There's a couple more people in Tijuana and LA, San Diego.
So it's Canada, United States, and Mexico. We're all Mexicans. But we're all like on the West Coast.
Do you get together for sometimes?
We try to get together as much as possible, but I mean, since we're all over the place, it's hard. But I think on the next few days, a lot of the team is going to be together because we're going to GDC. So we're going to be there together, and it's going to be a blast.
That's nice to hear that you use opportunities like this together. Are you active in the indie scene in your areas? Or do you go to game jams, or do you have contact to other indie devs in your area?
Well, on the first time we showcased the game was on Seattle Indies Expo. So there's a really, really, really good indie scene in Seattle. So we had the opportunity to meet a lot of people there, and we were fortunate enough that they saw like the game as good. So they let us showcase the game there, and we remain in contact with a lot of people we've met there in Seattle. And as for me, myself, that I'm in Tijuana, Mexico, there's not a lot of gaming development communities. I mean, we all love games and everything, but it's something that's underdeveloped, at least from my perspective. I'm sure someone in Mexico is listening to me and saying, "You're really dumb." It's a dream of us to encourage other people, at least in our home cities, to really pursue these dreams. But not only as a hobby that I'm going to look like once a year, and because that's a lot of the things we see from our peers. It's like, no, take it seriously, do something about it. And I believe that the reason why people are hesitant to take it seriously is because they do not share it. You need to share it. You need to, and I will be there to see the project and say you are great. So hopefully that can grow.
Keeping the fingers crossed. So a final question for our lovely talk today. What is your vision for your game's future? So when you release it, what would be your dream scenario?
A lot like yourself, people find that we really put a lot of effort into almost every detail in it, that everything is very thought out. Like, we do have very long discussions about like what everything means, what we're trying to say with things. And a lot of it is not very explicit. We draw a lot of inspiration that we don't intend to make like very obvious to the player, but we want it to be there. We want it to be the parts that make the sum better, and that people just connect with our ideas, with our stories, with the memories that we're trying to like rekindle with this game. Like share that experience that we had when we were younger with our computers, with our games, all of that. Like, I guess if I could summarize it, just that it resonates with people.
That specific question, literally yesterday, I asked the rest of the team, I was like, what do you guys think? And I was really pleasantly surprised that no one said that it sells a lot. Because I mean, we really wanted to do good, to do well,
Of course.
but nobody said it. And it was really good because we all shared that we wanted people to really connect with it, people to find the message of the game as something relatable, but also my favorite games, so like Outer Wilds and the Silent Hill series and that sort of thing. When I finished those games, I felt like I grew as a person. And I'm not trying to be like really high and mighty about our game, but whenever there's like a story that I find meaningful, I think I grew as a person. And if someone feels that way for our story, I would feel very, very fortunate. And personally, I really like to add a lot of details in the game, details that I hope someone will find, but I know people will most likely ignore. So my hidden dream is that someone will talk to me and say, "Oh, in this part, you made this because of this, right?" And then I'm going to cry because I'm like, "Oh my God, you understood." Like, oh my goodness. So that's like a hidden dream.
I just have to chime in and fanboy for a second in the demo. Since you also animate text, So when there's glowing and waves and so on, and you have the ability to look into the source code. And especially when I saw this wave functionality that you had, I noticed in the source code that you have F and A, and those are numbers that you can modify. And
Yeah.
so frequency and amplitude. And
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course I
sure.
did it, and it
Oh,
worked
that's
in
so
the text.
cool.
And I was like, wow, you guys really thought of everything. So, and I think
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you.
you're very welcome. I wish you all the best with the game, and I hope and I know that it will be successful, and that it will resonate with people, because you're making a game for everyone who had a computer in the 90s and for everyone who has a computer today and wants to experience what it was having a computer in the 90s. And you can't go wrong with Desktop Explorer, which is a wonderful blend of 90s computer nostalgia, creative puzzle design, and emotional storytelling. So go check out the demo on Steam right now after you finish this podcast episode. And the release date, as we heard here, is somewhere in 2026. And what you can do is, not to miss it, is to wishlist the game now on Steam. Juanpi, Tucky, thank you so much for being on our show and taking the time from your busy schedule to be here. I really, really appreciate it, because it's so cool to have the guys who are making my game that I'm most looking forward to on a show. And it was so great that you reached out and that we got the chance to talk today, and that you shared so many amazing stories.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a beautiful experience. Really.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
All the best to you guys, and give my and Sarah's best regards to the whole team.
Of course, of course.
Of course.